You're listening to the UnSafe Bible with Pastor Ken Brown.
Amalek is a type of the flesh. As believers, that's what we're fighting against. The lesson is simple. If you want victory over the flesh and the world, we got to have help from brothers and sisters who can come alongside and hold up our hands. I mean, we just have to. You can't do it on your own. You got to have someone else alongside you to help. I mean, there's times where I've got to have somebody help me hold up my hands. I just can't do it on my own. And we're all at that point at one time or another.
In the book of Exodus, when Israel fought against Amalek, Moses stood on the hill with his hands raised. As long as his arms were lifted, Israel prevailed. But when he grew tired, they began to lose. That's when Aaron and Hur stepped in, holding up Moses' hands until victory was won. Pastor Ken will explain today how that's a vivid picture of your own battle with the flesh. You can't fight alone. You need brothers and sisters to encourage you and strengthen you. God uses community to bring victory. Well, let's join Pastor Ken in the book of Obadiah as he continues his message, What Bitterness Leads to.
Edom joined with Moab and Ammon to attack King Jehoshaphat, and that led to a praise worship service that didn't end well for Edom. That's in 2 Chronicles. They rebelled against Judah when Jehoram was king, and I mean, that's just some of it. This went on for years, this back and forth. They eventually sided with Babylon. Israel never forgot that. And what we see here in Obadiah, we'll see that. And Ezekiel also prophesied against them in Ezekiel chapter 25. Later, their name becomes more of Edomian, not Edomites. They're finally going to wind up being subjected by the Jews. A guy by the name of John Hyrcanus under the Maccabeans subjected them in 109 BC. Herod, by the way, King Herod, he's an Idumean, he's an Edomite. But in 2 Maccabees chapter 10, another apocryphal book, we read this: the Idumeans who had control of important strongholds were harassing the Jews. They received those who were banished from Jerusalem and endeavored to keep up the war. But Maccabeus and his forces, after making solemn supplication and imploring God to fight on their side, rushed the strongholds of the Idumeans, attacking them, gained possession of the places, and beat off all who fought upon the wall, and slaughtered those who encountered, killing no fewer than 20,000. And that was the end of the Edomites at that point. They were all forced to become Jews at the point of a sword. We will learn that this book is specific to a people and a time, but yet it is also a type of what the Lord will do to the nations in judgment at the end of the age. And as we've learned, as we've studied the other books so far in the minor prophets, they all tend to speak to the current day, but they also speak to a future day. And Obadiah is no different. He will do that. There are some who believe the first 14 verses also talk about Mystery Babylon, based on some rabbinical thought. And also the non-canonical book, Gad the Seer, kind of talks that way. In chapter 2 of Gad the Seer, there's actually a reference to Edom being Rome, and that opens up these ideas. It says, "Woe to you, O Edom, that sits in the land of Kittim." Well, Kittim is Rome, based on what we read in Daniel 11:30. "In the north of the Mediterranean Sea, for your destroyers will emerge from a terrible nation. They will not leave you a remnant, for you said, I sit on high, only I have a covenant with the God of gods, for the Lord chose me instead of his holy people, for he abhorred them. And his former people despised and rejected, did not truly know the Lord, because they did not know his image. We are truly wise and intelligent. We know the Lord and his law. We know his image and presence, but thus says the Lord, because you rose up in pride to brag about the God of gods, know that you'll perish in your conceitedness." Now, that's a non-canonical book. That's just historical background. But there are some who take that and say, well, that's why this might also be about Mystery Babylon. Obadiah, though, takes the general attitude of Edom towards the people of Yahweh as the groundwork of his prophecy. He regards the judgment upon Edom as one feature in the judgment upon all nations. And we get to that when we finally get to verse 15 and 16. Proclaiming that the destruction of the power of Edom is also the overthrow of the power of all nations hostile to God. So we start talking about the day of the Lord at that point. In the final elevation and reestablishment of Israel in the Holy Land, we talk about this, and that's what he talks about at the end of this book. So the outline's real simple. You get an introduction in verse 1. The first message, which we'll cover, is verses 2 to 4. The second message is verses 5 to 9. And the third message is 10 to 14. We'll probably cover those two messages when we meet again. And then verses 15 to 21 talks about the salvation, judgment, the day of the Lord being near, and it also refers to what is called the Gaza War. And there are things that are referenced in it that started in 1948 and still take place now. So, there are some things in this book that are pretty doggone current. We're seeing some of it being fulfilled even at the present day. So at one level, verses 1 to 14 are all about Edom, and they are. At another level, they are a picture of judgment that is going to come upon all of the nations at the end of the age. And then there's also the idea of judgment of Mystery Babylon, if we take Edom being a synonym for Rome. Starting in verse 15, we'll also go into what is the far future for Obadiah, but for many of us, it's recent past, starting in 1948 and continuing on into the present. So verses 1 to 4, the vision of Obadiah. This is what the Lord God says concerning Edom. We've heard a report from the Lord, and a messenger has been sent among the nations saying, Rise, let's go up against her for battle. Behold, I'll make you small among the nations, and you are greatly despised. The arrogance of your heart has deceived you. The one who lives in the clefts of the rock, on the heights of his dwelling place, who says in his heart, Who will bring me down to earth? Though you make your home high like the eagle, though you set your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. So that's the first 4 verses. Now we're going to unpack those, okay? At the very beginning of the prophecy, Obadiah tells us, point blank, he got this directly from Yahweh. He was in front of the divine council, and God gave him specific messages to the descendants of Esau. They were given to him by Yahweh himself. Now, his prophecy is described as a revelation. That's a technical term, which means he saw a vision, but it also is, he had a communication. He's a prophet. And as we've already seen, Esau and Jacob are brothers, but they don't act like brothers. Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of soup. In the family at that time, the firstborn would wind up being the priest for the family. When Esau sold it, he's saying, I don't want to be the priest for the family. It's not valuable to me. That means he would have to have a relationship with Yahweh. He didn't want that. Esau didn't want to be spiritual. He opted for a life in the flesh. So we're seeing a picture here. Esau and Jacob are a picture of the flesh versus the spirit, but Edom is the same picture. Life in the flesh has a distinct meaning for those of us who are believers. We are told in the scriptures that's not a lifestyle we're supposed to be following, right? We're not supposed to be in the flesh. I still remember Pastor Chuck saying that people wanted to see him in the flesh, and he said, just catch him when he gets off of I-5 and he'll be in the flesh. Because he had problems driving on I-5. And that's why he said he would be in the flesh. Bad joke. But it was his joke, not mine. Esau has opted for this lifestyle. He wants to live for the world. He's living in the world. He's living for flesh. He's living to take care of his needs over anybody else's. He was oriented to meeting his own desires, and he's not interested in being the priest of the family. Not at all. So we see this contrast of a flesh-oriented life versus a spirit-led life in the book of Galatians. Paul talks about this in chapter 5. I say, live by the Spirit, you'll not carry out the desires of the flesh. But Esau lived for the flesh. The flesh has desires that are opposed to the Spirit, and the Spirit has desires that are opposed to the flesh. These are in opposition to each other so that you cannot do what you want. Anybody ever figured that out? I have. I mean, it works that way. If you're led by the Spirit, you're not under the law. Now, the works of the flesh are obvious. Now, here's what they are. And these are all the things that Esau engaged in: sexual immorality, impurity, depravity, idolatry, sorcery, hostilities, strife, jealousies, outbursts of anger, selfish rivalries, dissensions, factions, envying, murder, drunkenness, carousing, and similar things. Paul didn't give us the complete list. I'm warning you, as I warned you before, those who practice, as believers, we fail from time to time, but we don't practice such things. Those who practice those things will not inherit the kingdom of God. In other words, they're not believers. That's their lifestyle. That's how they live. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That's how, as believers, we should be living. We should be seeing agape love taking place in our lives, and then it exhibits itself as joy and all those other things that are listed there. Now, those who belong to Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. Okay, got it. There are two natures in every believer: the new nature and the old nature. And they're opposed to each other. And as long as we're in the Spirit, we can control that flesh. But if we're not in the Spirit, we wind up turning towards it. Esau is a picture of the flesh, the old nature. And Jacob is a picture of the Spirit, the new nature. I'm reminded of a promise that was made to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, when Yahweh first called him to follow him. In Genesis 12, verses 1 to 3, the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I'll show you. I'll make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing." Now here's the thing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. That still holds today. That has not changed. And in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. Jesus came through the line of Judah in Israel. So, that's where that comes from. Now, what's Edom doing? They're not blessing, they're cursing. In fact, they're overdoing the cursing part. God meant it when he said to Abram, he still means it today. Edom, as a nation, put themselves on the wrong side of the equation. And unfortunately, a lot of nations have done that, including our own. Bill Koenig has a book called Eye to Eye, where he outlines all of the different things that the current different administrations have done versus what has taken place historically when they make actions that are kind of counter to Israel or in favor of Israel. But what he points out in the book is that every world power that has controlled and occupied the land of Israel is not a world power anymore. Or they've lost power, like Britain, who promised that they would give Israel the land, and then they reneged on that. So we come back to Obadiah, verse 1, the second half of the verse. We've heard a report from the Lord, and a messenger has been sent among the nations saying, "Rise and let's go up against her for battle." Did you notice he didn't say, "I heard"? He said, "We heard." It's the plural in the Hebrew. When the pronouncement's made by Yahweh about Edom, Obadiah is one of many who hear it. He is in the divine council, and he's referring to all of the folks in the divine council who heard it. Any prophets who were there, as well as any of the divine beings and angels who were there. It's a slip. When he says that, he's basically saying, I'm a prophet, I was in the divine council, we have heard this. Its report, by the way, is from the Lord. It is from Yahweh. That's the term used there in the Hebrew. Yohevavhe is what's there. He is the creator. He is the ruler of the universe. He's the one that says this. Not Obadiah. He's just the messenger. By this, Obadiah has indicated that he has received a direct commission by the Lord Yahweh to deliver the following three messages, plus what he adds about future things, starting in verse 15. The message of Obadiah is designed to reassure us. What he's saying is that sometimes justice catches up with evil people in this life. Sometimes it doesn't, but justice will still be done. It may not happen until this life is over and Jesus returns, but it will be done. That's what he's saying. Edom had been giving Israel a hard time for hundreds of years. And God's telling them, you're done. You're going to be judged. And they were. We look at the state of the Christian church in our land and we wonder whether or not anything can be done to arrest the decline of the church in the West. Now, there are times of revival that might just be around the corner, and we're all praying for that, where people would submit to God's will and we would see God glorifying times again. It may be in the distant future. It's also possible that Jesus will return and we won't see it at all. But here's the thing. Jesus will return. So there's nothing for us to really worry about in that regard. But Obadiah is a called prophet. He's called by God. He had that interview with the divine council. He's reporting what he heard in the divine council. He's telling what the entire council heard God say and what Yahweh pronounced. It may not be important to Edom, but for the Jew reading this, it's a key piece of information about Obadiah's resume. He is God's man. He's a prophet of God. He has the blue check mark next to his name on Twitter. He's verified. We know he is. He's validated. Okay. What he hears, though, is not good news for Edom. It's a declaration of war on Edom by Yahweh. Not something you want to hear if you're in Edom. And it's more than that, too. He's letting all the nations know about this. All of the nations are being called to make war on Edom. Edom lives in the flesh. They're a type of the world. For us as the believer, can we have peace with the world? No, never. We can't have peace with the world. We're always going to be at war with the world. We're having to rely on Jesus and the Holy Spirit to give us the victory on an ongoing basis as we fight against the flesh. The fact that it's the nations generally here, not specifically, but generally, that are summoned to make war upon Edom, and not just one nation in particular, points at once to the fact that Edom is regarded as a type of the power of the world and its hostility to God, the destruction of which we're being told ahead of time, it's going to end. Edom's going to end. And because Edom ended, we can take it to the bank that when Jesus returns, the flesh, the world system is gone. It's done. There will never be peace with the world for the believer. And that's reflected in the Bible when God tells Moses there will never be peace with Amalek, which is also a type of the world. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't know. You have to research a little bit. Amalek was born to Esau's son, Eliphaz, and his concubine, Timnah. And he's held up as a type of the world. Well, he's an Edomite. Amalek, Edomite. The same thing. While the nation was in the wilderness, Yahweh miraculously supplied water to the nation. And as we've studied, it was a lot of water, the equivalent of Lake Mead every 10 days. That's a bunch of water. When Lake Mead had water in it, okay? This attracted the attention of Amalek, who attacked Israel at Rephidim. The event was a miracle. As long as Moses held up his hands, Joshua and the troops were winning. But he couldn't hold his hands up all day. So Aaron and Hur came and helped him hold up his hands and supported his hands, and that way they had victory. Amalek, the world, was defeated only by other brothers coming alongside to help. That's a picture for us, too. We can't defeat the world on our own. We have to have others to be praying with us, and sometimes we have to talk to them and join with them. to be able to get victory. As it says in Exodus 17, verse 13, Joshua destroyed Amalek and his army with the sword. The Lord said to Moses, write this as a memorial in the book and rehearse it in Joshua's hearing, for I will surely wipe out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Moses built an altar and he called it, the Lord is my banner. And he said, for a hand was lifted up to the throne of the Lord, that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. And Amalek is a type of the flesh. As believers, that's what we're fighting against. The lesson is simple. If you want victory over the flesh and the world, we got to have help from brothers and sisters who can come alongside and hold up our hands. I mean, we just have to. You can't do it on your own. You got to have someone else alongside you to help. I mean, there's times where I've got to have somebody help me hold up my hands. I just can't do it on my own. And we're all at that point at one time or another. War is always the order of the day with Amalek. Always. Why did Saul get in trouble? Because he didn't kill all of Amalek. The Lord said, you take care of this, and he didn't do it. He decided to compromise and live with it. And Samuel said, you can't do that. It's a descendant of Esau. It's Amalek. Edom, the descendants of Esau, are a type of the power of the world. Peace is impossible with the world. It's not possible. God invites others to join the fight. And we're inviting others to join the fight every single day when we talk about Jesus Christ. We're inviting others to join in the fight against the world. When they give their life to Jesus Christ, we're training folks and making them disciples so that they too can learn how to have victory over the world, over the flesh. This report is from the Lord. The title identifies Yahweh as the master and ruler of the world by virtue that he has the authority to place demands on Edom and on the nations and to judge them because they're all accountable to him. Now, it's bad enough to have God personally say he's declaring war on you. That's pretty bad. But then he turns around and tells everyone else about the declaration. That's not good either. But then what he says here, he says, come and join me. And that's what he tells us. Come and join him as he fights for us, because he's the one who declared war. He's the one fighting the battle, and he invites us to join him. Because with him we have victory. We do. We just do. In the battle against Edom, or Amalek, the world. Edom, getting back to the nation, they mistreated God's people badly. So God has personally declared war on them and invited the rest of the world to join. And a messenger has been sent among the nations saying, rise up, let's go up against her for battle. That's the declaration of war. Verse 2. Behold, God speaking to Edom, I will make you small among the nations. You are greatly despised. Not something you want to hear from the Lord. The nation of Edom is going to be judged. It is going to be insignificant, small, vulnerable, and incapable of defending itself. The phrase here designates the insignificant and feeble status that God gives Edom amongst all the nations. They thought they were a big deal. They're not a big deal. In fact, God's going to make them a little deal. Historically, God did use multiple nations to humble them. He included the Nabateans, the Jews, the Maccabees and John Hyrcanus, and the Romans. In fact, once you get past Rome, there are no more Edomites. There are no more Idumeans. Anybody know an Edomite? You don't. They're not around anymore. They're gone.
Thanks for tuning in to today's edition of the UnSafe Bible with Pastor Ken Brown. Pastor Ken is coming to you from Calvary Chapel, Martin County in Hobe Sound, Florida. We've been studying the book of Obadiah, which is the shortest book in the Bible, but it packs a big punch. The prophet Obadiah is specifically calling out the nation of Edom for their pride, but in the second half of the book, he extends the accusation towards every nation. It's in this book that we realize that God isn't just watching the actions of his chosen nation in Israel. He cares about every nation and every group of people, and he hates to see prideful people. But we have hope that God is going to establish a new kingdom that will reign over the entire world. Now, if you're new to the ministry of the UnSafe Bible, we would love to get connected with you. The best way to do so is on our website at theunsafebible.com, where you'll be able to fill out a Connect card so we can get to know you. While you're there, you can also click on the Media tab to find more messages from Pastor Ken, spanning from Genesis all the way to Revelation. Also, if you're in Hope Sound, we'd love to get to meet you in person at one of our services at Calvary Chapel, Martin County. You can find our service times and church information on that same website. We believe that fellowship with other believers is vital to the Christian walk, and we'd love to help facilitate that with our neighbors in Martin County. Well, we're out of time for today, so we hope you'll join us again next time here on the UnSafe Bible.